Welcome back to Factual America, the channel where we don't just read headlines, we dig into the facts and expose the story behind the news. Today, we're asking a question that's on the minds of a lot of Americans. Is America preparing for a war with a major power? This isn't just your average military discussion. We're diving deep into politics, economics, new technologies, and the psychological game being played in capitals worldwide. You're going to want to stay tuned because the answers might surprise you. Think back just a few years. The United States' main international concerns were mostly about the war on terror, insurgent groups, and instability in the Middle East. But lately, if you listen closely to politicians, military leaders, and analysts, there's a different kind of warning. The conversation has shifted from counter-terror to what could be called great power competition. The big players now? China and Russia. Let's begin with the basics. What does it actually mean to prepare for war in 2024? It's not just about building tanks or sending aircraft carriers across the ocean. These days, preparation means beefing up cyber defense, developing hypersonic weapons, reorganizing military units, and even bidding for dominance in outer space. America's defense spending recently topped $850 billion, nearly double what it was after 9/11. But here comes the first twist. While the Pentagon says it's preparing for strategic competition, some high-ranking officials have used terms that sound eerily like preparing for outright war, especially with China over Taiwan or Russia over NATO's eastern flank. In 2022, Admiral Michael Gilday, the chief of naval operations, warned that a Chinese assault on Taiwan could happen much sooner than most think. So is all this muscle flexing really about deterrence? Or is it more aggressive than we're being told? Look at the Pacific. The U.S. has repositioned troops throughout the region, signed new military deals with Australia, Japan, and the Philippines, and embarked on a buying spree of advanced fighter aircraft. The Air Force even rehearses refueling missions in remote Pacific islands, a clear hint that it expects bases in Guam or even Hawaii could come under attack in a real conflict. Ask yourself, are these just smart maneuvers, or are they chess pieces being positioned for something bigger? And let's not forget Europe. The war in Ukraine kicked off a NATO revival that caught even the experts by surprise. Suddenly, American troops are stationed in Poland, Romania, and the Baltics, something unthinkable even a decade ago. Billions in military aid are flowing to Ukraine, but the Pentagon quietly replenishes its own stocks and builds up arms production as insurance. It's almost as if everyone is nervously preparing for a much bigger showdown. Many people don't realize just how high the stakes are. Taiwan isn't just a patch of land, it's home to the largest microchip manufacturer in the world. Chips that run everything from iPhones to fighter jets. If China moved against Taiwan, it could spark a global economic meltdown. And that's something Washington simply can't afford to ignore. This all raises the question, is the American public aware or even ready for what could be coming? Most of the attention in the media is on domestic politics, inflation, or celebrity drama. But behind the scenes, military planners talk about a possible near-term clash with China, possibly as soon as the next few years. Some Pentagon documents even mention 2027 as a potential window for Chinese aggression. Let's talk about technology, because this is where the new arms race is especially fierce. The U.S. military is pouring billions into next-generation stealth bombers, drone swarms, laser weapons, and hypersonic missiles that could hit anywhere on Earth in minutes. China, not to be outdone, just demonstrated a hypersonic missile that reportedly circled the globe before striking its target. The pressure is on, and failure to keep up could spell disaster. But here's a less talked about twist. War isn't just about hardware anymore. America's adversaries are investing heavily in what's called gray zone warfare: cyber attacks, disinformation, covert operations, and sabotage. In fact, experts say that a future war could start quietly: hacked power grids, fake news sowing chaos, or attacks on critical infrastructure, all before a single shot is fired. So what are America's leaders doing about all this? President Biden, like his predecessor Donald Trump, has continued to push for more defense spending and new partnerships in both Europe and Asia. Congress, despite plenty of partisan squabbling, has actually come together to pass several major military budgets and tech investment bills. It's one of the few issues where Democrats and Republicans find some common ground. But there's a debate brewing in Washington. Is America spreading itself too thin? Can the nation really be ready to take on both China and Russia at the same time, all while fighting cyber wars, supporting Ukraine, and policing trouble spots like the Middle East and North Korea? Some say yes, and after all, the US has unmatched resources and allies around the world. Others warn that a two-front war could leave America dangerously exposed. Let's pause for a moment, because there's an elephant in the room. America's own military readiness has been questioned by some former generals and Pentagon watchdogs. Reports have surfaced about aging equipment, recruitment shortfalls, and even ammunition shortages after supplying Ukraine. The military is scrambling to fix these issues fast, but critics warn that time might not be on America's side. Meanwhile, public attitudes are shifting. According to recent polls, most Americans say China is now the biggest threat, a sharp change from a decade ago. Support for big defense spending is up, but at the same time, fewer young people say they would volunteer to fight if a major conflict broke out. America is wary, but also deeply divided. Now let's zoom out to a global perspective. China's military has undergone one of the fastest buildups in history, tripling its navy in 2 decades and testing war games that simulate blockading Taiwan and attacking US ships. Russia may be tied down in Ukraine, but it's also modernizing its nuclear forces and launching cyber espionage campaigns against the West. This is not the old world order. This is a new, unpredictable chess game. But here's a plot twist. Some diplomats and realist thinkers argue that this military buildup is actually about avoiding war, not starting one. The logic is called deterrence through strength. If America appears weak, rivals might be tempted to strike, believing the US wouldn't respond. So a show of force, from Pacific drills to joint NATO exercises, is really an insurance policy against miscalculation. And what's happening behind closed doors with America's allies? Japan has broken decades of constitutional restraint to expand its defense spending. Australia is buying nuclear submarines. Even Germany, once criticized for its low military expenditures, has launched its biggest rearmament since the Cold War. The world sees storm clouds ahead, and no one wants to be caught unprepared. Let's not forget the possibility of mistakes. The so-called Thucydides trap, where a rising power, but China, and a dominant power, the US, stumble by accident into conflict. History shows that miscalculations, not evil intentions, often trigger wars. A minor naval incident, a cyber attack blamed on the wrong side, or an escalation in Taiwan could spark something no one truly wants. Skeptics say all this talk of war is exaggerated, that it's about selling more weapons, scaring the public, or angling for more funding. But the evidence of preparation is everywhere, from US bases in the Pacific expanding missile defenses to the Pentagon doubling its orders for advanced munitions and partnering with Silicon Valley startups developing next-gen AI warfighting tools. So, is America preparing for war? In some ways, the answer is simply yes. The buildup is real, the budgets are real, and the tensions are at their highest in decades. But the bigger, and maybe scarier, question is whether that preparation is meant to keep the peace, or if it risks turning small sparks into a global blaze. In summary, this isn't just about militaries and missiles. It's about economics, technology, alliances, and how America sees itself in a world where old certainties are vanishing. The choices made now in war rooms and boardrooms could shape not just the next decade, but the entire 21st century. So what do you think? Is America's military buildup a wise insurance policy, or are we sleepwalking toward a catastrophic conflict? Jump into the comments below. We want to hear your unfiltered opinions. And if you found this deep dive informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend who needs a dose of reality. What other world-shaping topics should we cover here on Factual America? Let us know your ideas and stay tuned for our next episode, because the facts are just getting started.